When you spoke to the grand jury about your memory, were you trying to fool them in any way?
No.
Were you trying to...
Objection.
Watch the form of your questions.
Were you trying to mislead them in any way?
Objection.
Sustain. Watch the form of your questions.
When you spoke to the grand jury, were you honest?
Yes.
When you were asked the question, what, if anything, did the defendant ask Ms. McCabe, did you begin your response by saying, at one point?
You can show her her response.
May I approach?
Yes.
Page 83, line 19 of the grand jury. I'm going to ask you to look at page 83, line 19. Just read it to yourself and the lines that follow. You done? When you were asked that question by Mr. Lally at the grand jury, did you ever say you specifically, personally heard that statement?
I'll allow that.
Did you
No,
ever
I
tell
did
the
not.
grand jury you actually heard that statement being made?
I did not.
And when you spoke to the people in that report that you looked at on page 7, did you ever tell them you specifically heard that statement being made?
No.
Were you consistent in both of those statements?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you say anything different as
No.
far as what you personally observed between those statements?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
No.
And when you were asked about what the defendant may have said to Ms. McCabe, or Mrs. McCabe, did you generalize your answer?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you begin your answer with, at one point?
Yes.
When you chose the words, at one point, what were you trying to convey to the grand jury?
I'll allow that.
I didn't know at what time it was done.
Was that a topic of conversation around the time you were brought to the grand jury?
Around the time what?
That you were brought to the grand jury to testify? This Google search.
Was it? I don't know.
Okay. Were you asked here in front of this jury whether or not you personally heard that statement?
Yes.
By me. Did I ask you that question?
No.
Did you personally hear that statement?
No.
After this happened, you discussed what had happened with people, didn't you?
I'm sorry, say it again?
After you found John lying in the snow, did you discuss what had happened, what you saw with other people?
Yes, of
Did
course.
anybody tell you that you couldn't discuss the trauma that you had been through?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
Say it again?
Did anybody tell you that you couldn't discuss what you had just seen?
No. Say it again? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
After you found John that morning, did anybody, civilian or law enforcement, ever tell you you weren't allowed to discuss what you had just went through?
No.
Did anybody ever tell you that you couldn't have support of other people?
Objection.
No.
I'll allow that.
No.
Was this a traumatic event?
Yes.
Have you spoken to a number of people about it?
Yes.
Tell us why you would want to speak to somebody about what happened that morning.
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
I've spoken to many people, obviously, that we all grew up with. But Jen in particular, I do speak to her. I am friends with her. We went through a really traumatic experience together.
Did you ever confide in other people other than Jen McCabe about what you endured that morning?
Yes, many people.
Why?
Because it helps me get through, and it's whether John's family, friends, whoever. I've talked to a number of people about it.
You're friends with John's parents?
Parents?
John's parents, the O'Keefes.
Yes.
You still friends with them?
Yes.
Do you ever discuss what happened?
Yes.
You were asked by law enforcement if they could have your telephone?
Yes.
Was there a warrant?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently.
Did you feel like you had any obligation legal obligation to give your phone to law enforcement?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No, they asked for my phone. I handed it over willingly.
Did you think you had to?
No, but there was no reason not to.
When they went through your phone, do you know whether they saw all of your phone calls that were on that phone?
Objection.
Do you know that?
I don't know. They cloned my phone, so I assume they saw everything.
Objection. Please.
I'm going to strike that answer. So the answer is I don't know.
What type of information did you have on your phone when you voluntarily gave it?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Text messages, phone calls, call logs, pictures.
You said that you stayed friendly and still are friendly with Peggy O'Keefe and John Sr.?
Yes.
Okay. At some point, at times, do you try to help them with things?
Daily.
Do you try to help them with the children?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, you were asked about contacting the district attorney's office about replacing a Ring camera.
Yes.
Whose Ring camera was that?
It was at One Meadows where Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe, John's parents, are now living.
What motivated you to call the district attorney's office about the Ring camera?
Because we knew the Ring might be some sort of evidence that they didn't want to take the camera that was not working down without permission.
Do you have a Ring camera?
I do.
Do you know if there's a difference between the actual physical camera and the iCloud storage that keeps the actual video on it?
I don't know the difference.
Okay. Did you ever ask to replace any hard drives or storage, or were you asking to replace the camera itself?
Just the camera.
And that was in March 7, 2023?
I don't know when.
You were asked questions about what the defendant said that morning when you were trying to help Mr. O'Keefe.
Yes.
You were asked whether you heard any comments about from her, about dropping John off.
Say that one more time.
You were asked whether you heard any comments about her saying she dropped him off.
In the car on the way to the hospital.
Okay.
She said it to Mrs. O'Keefe.
When you were outside trying to help John, were you ever told where the defendant dropped John off?
No.
Were you ever told where he was left?
No.
Was it ever suggested that he went into 34 Fairview?
No.
Was it ever suggested that he went into any house whatsoever that morning?
No.
Were you ever asked to go into the house to look for him?
No.
When you were being interviewed by law enforcement, did you ever refuse to be interviewed?
No.
Were the interviews all the same or different?
They were all different. They were all different.
Were you ever asked to give a complete review in detail of everything that you knew?
I was just asked to tell me the story of what happened that morning.
And at some point when you were interviewed, you were asked about the phone calls that the defendant made to you that morning at 5 o'clock.
Yes.
When you received those phone calls, Jennifer McCabe was not on the line, was she?
No.
Was she a party to the calls?
No.
Did she influence your memory in any way about the words that the defendant spoke to you that morning?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
No.
Do you have a clear memory of what the defendant said to you on the morning of January 29, 2022 at around 5 in the morning when she first called you?
Yes.
Is it your independent memory?
I'm saying.
Is it
sorry.
your independent memory?
Yes.
How well do you remember it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Tell us what you remember her saying to you.
Objection.
I'll allow it.
when she first called, she said, "John's dead, Kerry, Kerry," and hung up.
And she called you back.
She called back.
When she called back, was there any other party on the line other than you and her?
No.
What do you remember the second time that she called you?
Yes. She said, "John, I think he got hit by a plow. He did not come home last night. He would never not have come home. I wasn't supposed to stay in Canton, and Kaylee was here. He would never leave Kaylee by herself."
Did anybody ever ask you to lie
No.
or exaggerate?
No.
Would you?
Say that?
Would you?
No.
Sustained.
You were asked whether or not you told people on January 29th about the missing pieces to the defendant's taillight. And you began to say you didn't tell anybody that morning.
I didn't think it had anything to do with John. I didn't want to point fingers at anybody
Why not?
because I had no idea what had happened to him. I wasn't going to point fingers at his girlfriend.
Was it, in fact, broken with missing pieces that morning?
Yes.
You saw the ring video of you and Miss McCabe and the defendant going into John's house?
Yes.
Had you seen that video before today?
Yes.
Had you been shown it before in
Yes.
other proceedings?
Yes.
When you went into the house with Miss McCabe and the defendant, did you do anything before you went into the house, actually in the house?
When
Take any-
we took off our shoes and
You took off your shoes?
Jen and I both took off our boots
Why did you take off your boots?
because you had to take off your shoes to go into John's house.
Well, you say you had to. Explain to us a little bit of the background on that.
John was a neat freak. You were not allowed to wear shoes in the house.
Had you ever worn shoes in his house?
Oh,
Had you ever seen anybody wear shoes in his house?
no.
You and
They
Miss
do
McCabe?
now. They do now.
I see. You and Miss McCabe took your shoes off?
Yes.
Did the defendant take her shoes off?
She did not
How do you remember that?
because Jen and I were standing there for about a good 2 minutes trying to get our boots off, and she had already gone in the house.
Do you know why you were called that morning?
No.
Did you volunteer to be part of this
Yes.
after the call?
Yes.
You had said you thought that you looked at the taillight before you went into John's house.
Yes.
Do you remember actually seeing the tail light that morning?
I do.
Was it simply cracked?
No.
Do you know that the portion of the ring video from when you came out of the house with the defendant, Miss McCabe, do you know that that portion is missing?
Objection.
Sustained.
Have you ever seen any ring video depicting when the defendant was showing you her missing pieces of taillight that morning?
No.
Despite no video, are you certain that you saw it?
Say it again.
Are you certain that you looked at it with the defendant that morning in that driveway?
Objection.
Sustained.
I'd like to play clip 3, please.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Mr. Brennan.
When you first got to John and you were trying to save him that morning, do you have a distinct memory of it?
Yes.
Counsel had asked you if it was your story. Was this a story?
Say it again.
Was it a story that you told?
A story?
Yes.
It's what happened.
Do you wish it was just a story?
Objection.
Sustained.
There's no further questions.
Okay, so recross.